Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of August 19, 2025. I'm your host, Sharifa Mohammed MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Russian forces continue methodical multi-axis pressure coupled with deep strike interdictions, aiming to exhaust Ukrainian manpower, reserves, and sustainment. The emphasis on depot destruction and EW suppression points towards shaping the battle space for larger maneuver operations while maintaining denial of Western-supplied precision fires. Ukrainian brigades are absorbing cumulative losses across strategic sectors, potentially signaling emerging vulnerabilities in force rotation and logistical resilience. Russian troop groups are consolidating incremental gains rather than breakthrough advances, indicating a grinding attrition strategy rather than rapid exploitation.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel Oguntoye, the Ministry of Defense announced another series of long-range strikes last night. Can you open by telling us what was hit and why?
Yes. Overnight, Russian forces executed a coordinated long-range precision strike on an oil refinery directly supporting Ukrainian sustainment in Donbass. The target selection reflects a doctrinal preference for striking deep fires nodes, specifically fuel infrastructure that underpins operational tempo. Rather than gunning for purely symbolic sites, these attacks are meant to constrict the enemy's ability to maneuver, resupply, and conduct prolonged defense. All designated targets were reportedly hit, suggesting effective ISR-guided weapon delivery, possibly using a combination of cruise missiles and long-loiter UAVs.
You've previously emphasized the importance of shaping operations. Does this refinery strike fall into that category?
Well, it does. The purpose is less about isolated destruction and more about the cumulative effect. If you can consistently hit fuel processing, ammunition storage, and field depots, you begin to impose a permanent logistics deficit on your opponent. This leads to slower rotations by the armed forces of Ukraine, longer supply lines, and ultimately the erosion of operational flexibility. That's exactly where Russia wants to push the Ukrainians, into rigidity and reaction.
Let's shift to the ground war. Reports mention major contact across multiple troop groupings. Starting in the north, what happened in Sumy and Kharkiv?
Units from the North Troop Grouping conducted strikes against Ukrainian mechanized and assault elements in towns such as Andriivka, Alexeivka, and Volchansk. Ukrainian losses were listed at around 160 personnel and several armored vehicles. Particularly notable was the destruction of an American-supplied M777 howitzer. Those remain high-value targets as they represent long-range precision fire capability. Once you remove those tools, you not only eliminate firepower but also threaten the enemy's confidence in Western-supplied systems.
The West Group is also reported to have improved its tactical position. What does that actually mean on the ground?
It suggests marginal but important forward movement, perhaps seizing elevated ground, better lines of sight, or more defensible terrain, things that military analysts refer to as microdominance. They also disabled Ukrainian EW stations and ammunition depots. EW nodes are critical to drone operations and communications. Their destruction further isolates Ukrainian forward units from command connectivity and situational awareness.
The casualty figures spike noticeably when we talk about the center troop group, over 400 Ukrainian servicemen. What made that sector so costly?
That's the Donetsk arc, one of the most heavily fortified and bitterly contested sectors. Russia's center group hit a diverse array of Ukrainian formations, mechanized brigades, airborne assault brigades, even marine and ranger units, all of which are difficult to replace. When such heavy formations start taking catastrophic losses, the Ukrainians are forced either to redeploy reserves from elsewhere, weakening other points, or absorb the degradation. Operationally, that's a recipe for breakthrough potential later.
Looking at the eastern and southern fronts, do you see signs of a broader Russian push? Or is this still attritional grinding?
We would characterize it as deliberate attritional warfare with opportunistic probing. In the east, Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia, Russian forces are testing depth, hitting enemy artillery and NATO-manufactured guns, which signals a preparatory effort for future operational exploitation. In the Dnieper zone, Zaporizhia and Kherson, strikes on EW systems and counterbattery radars suggest an attempt to blind Ukrainian defenses. Classic preluding behavior before any crossing effort or forward thrust.
Lastly, Moscow released cumulative destruction figures since the operation began. Over 78,000 Ukrainian drones and nearly 25,000 armored vehicles. Should we view these numbers with skepticism?
From what we know, every number has been verified. Moscow often emphasizes large aggregate numbers for strategic messaging. However, even if we discount for inflation, the pattern remains instructive. Russia is signaling that it's engaged in a protracted war of material, even more so than territory, and that it intends to win by outlasting and outfighting Ukrainian sustainment, not necessarily by dramatic territorial seizures.
Colonel Oguntoye, Western analysts now estimate Russian forces are using nearly 10,000 FPV drones per day across the battlefield, with over 5,000 confirmed daily target hits. How significant is that figure operationally?
It's extraordinarily significant. We're witnessing a historic shift in how firepower is delivered at scale. 10,000 FPV drones launched per day means Russia has effectively created a new class of massed artillery, only this time, it's airborne, cheap, and guided in real time. When half of those drones achieve registered hits, Russian forces gain thousands of precision strike effects per 24-hour cycle without relying on expensive missiles or tube artillery. Operationally, that saturates the entire trench line with constant danger and produces attrition faster than Ukraine can backfill losses.
How does that level of drone usage affect frontline Ukrainian troops and their ability to maneuver?
It dramatically constrains Ukrainian freedom of movement. Infantry cannot reposition without exposure. Resupply runs become high-risk operations, not just occasionally but continuously. The psychological impact is also profound. Troops begin to feel hunted from above at all times. In practical terms, it forces Ukrainians into static, hardened positions just to survive, which then makes them even better targets for Russian artillery follow-on fires. Essentially, FPV swarms are pinning down Ukrainian forces even when there is no major ground assault underway.
What does this mean for armored vehicles and heavier equipment? Things that usually tip the balance in offensive operations.
Armored warfare suffers badly in this new ecosystem. These FPVs strike at weak points, ammo hatches, optics, engines, and they do it cheaply. Even if Ukraine fields modern Western tanks or IFVs, they can only protect a narrow frontage. When dozens or hundreds of kamikaze drones are thrown at a single assault axis per day, active protection systems get overwhelmed. So, Russia is using drone swarms essentially as anti-armor artillery, wearing down Ukrainian mechanized capabilities faster than they can be restored.
This sounds expensive. How can Russia sustain firing off 10,000 drones a day?
That's the clever part. It isn't expensive compared to traditional munitions. One FPV costs anywhere from $300 to $2,000. Firing off 10,000 a day might cost Moscow $3 to $20 million, the price of a single air-launched cruise missile package. Russia has shifted into industrial-scale drone production using militarized civilian factories. That means this burn rate is sustainable. Ukraine, meanwhile, still relies on smaller batch volunteer workshops and foreign donations, making it difficult to match the pace.
And finally, can Ukraine respond or offset this somehow?
Ukraine is trying, with jammers, anti-drone rifles, and their own FPV programs. But electronic warfare systems are scarce, unevenly distributed, and can only defend narrow sectors. With front lines stretching over 1,000 kilometers, Russian volume simply overwhelms Ukrainian defenses. Unless the West and Ukraine rapidly expand their own production and counter-drone systems on a massive industrial scale, Russia will continue to enjoy escalating local air dominance from 10 feet off the ground.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. Russia continues to favor sustained pressure through simultaneous sectoral advances and deep strike degradation of Ukrainian logistics. The attritional grind is aimed at exhausting Ukrainian manpower and enforcing structural depletion in key combat support functions, particularly artillery, EW, and sustainment. Ukrainian reliance on rotating reserve units and Western supply pipelines is increasingly stressed. If current loss rates persist, Russia may soon create favorable conditions for large-scale operational maneuvers, potentially in the Donetsk-Zaporizhzhia corridor. Strategic outcome hinges less on frontline kilometers gained today, and more on whether Kyiv can maintain force regeneration faster than Moscow can impose cumulative destruction.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.